The sky trembled, the earth shook, and from the heavens fell a rebel god. It's hard to overstate just how dramatic this moment was. Angels waged war against each other, an unprecedented event in all of creation. And when the dust settled, there were two clear victors and one very obvious loser. Yet while the aftermath is often described as heaven gaining victory over hell, that may not actually be true. Because while Lucifer was cast out of heaven, where did he go? In some tellings, Lucifer did not fall into fire and brimstone, but straight into power. In fact, some claim that he didn't even fall at all. This idea goes back to early Christian writers like Saint Gregory of Nyssa, who wrote, "He did not fall, for had he fallen, he would have fallen into nothing. But he fell into a kingdom, having made it his own." Now, what exactly does this mean? Well, if you believe this idea, then before the war, Lucifer was already the king of hell. He wasn't cast into it as punishment, but rather he already ruled it with an iron fist. His legions of demons already wreaked havoc across the human world. And in the chaos of the final battle, he just came out on top. That wouldn't necessarily make him the winner, but it could certainly make him the biggest threat. You see, most people imagine hell as a place of torment, a fiery underworld where the wicked are punished after death. But early Christians saw it differently. They believed hell was actually the abode of Satan and his demons. In fact, they thought the fallen angel himself created it to serve as his base of operations. This was a realm filled with unimaginable horrors, a twisted reflection of heaven where demonic principalities ruled and human souls were tortured. After all, this version of hell sounds pretty close to the underworld ruled by Hades in Greek mythology. Such it can be dangerous for mortals to enter. Even heroes like Heracles ventured there with proper preparation and assistance from the gods. And even so, they still almost got trapped forever. Of course, in Christianity, Jesus Christ is said to have journeyed into hell to preach to the spirits held captive there. But that doesn't mean everyone else has it so easy. You see, in the early church, it was widely believed that devils could possess humans at will, tricking them into doing their bidding or straight up torturing them. If any hero or saint managed to make it to hell, well, they probably weren't coming back. So if Lucifer ruled hell, then he wouldn't exactly be getting a new domain. Rather, he would simply be returning to his old one. In fact, some traditions believe he always will return to it as long as humanity exists. For in the same way that heaven requires free will, so does hell. As long as humans have the freedom to choose between good and evil, Lucifer will continue to tempt them. And as long as some inevitably choose evil, then he will continue to win. But why do some believe this is true? Why does the idea of Lucifer falling into a kingdom rather than falling from one hold so much appeal? Well, if you look at the book of Isaiah, chapter 14, verses 12 to 17, you'll find a passage many Christians consider proof. This passage describes the downfall of a brilliant star, one that shone brightly but was cast down to the earth. It tells the story of someone who thought themselves a god, ruling from the heights of their heavenly domain. Then it says, "How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations of the world, O Lucifer, son of the morning? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend to heaven and set my throne above the stars of God. I will also make myself like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to the earth, thou that art to the foundations of the mountains." Some Christians read this passage literally, believing it describes Lucifer's fall from heaven. But others think it describes the exact opposite. They believe this star never ascended, but rather always reigned in hell. Thus, the verse isn't describing a fall at all, but a boast. When Lucifer boasts about his greatness and his desire to rule, he's boasting about his kingdom of hell, and he only appears to be cut down when really he's merely being humbled. In other words, this star is Lucifer, and his fall was never from heaven to hell, but from hell to heaven. There's another passage that supports this idea. In the book of Revelation, chapter 12, verse 7, it says, "And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought, but they were not strong enough, and there was no longer a place for them in heaven." Many Christians believe that this verse shows us that Lucifer and his followers were once in heaven, but after rebelling, were banished to earth. In fact, some scholars believe that the war in heaven wasn't even a war at all, but a mass exodus. This passage suggests that Lucifer wasn't the only one who rebelled. After all, it says, he and his angels, implying that Lucifer wasn't alone. Rather, he led a full-blown mutiny against God. He took a third of the angelic host with him, kicking off a war that shook the heavens. But again, some disagree. They believe that this passage isn't about a war at all. Rather, it's about a mass expulsion. This idea goes back to the writings of Saint Irenaeus, who believed that the rebel angels were kicked out of heaven, not because God wanted to punish them, but to protect his creation. Lucifer and his followers were quarantined away from the righteous, and thus hell became his home by default. In this telling, hell wasn't a place of torment, but a place of banishment. It was a prison specifically designed to contain evil and keep it away from humanity. And Lucifer wasn't the winner of the war, just its biggest prisoner. But there's a third idea, one that reconciles these two interpretations. This view holds that Lucifer didn't fall from heaven into hell, he fell from heaven into a void. When Lucifer left heaven, he didn't immediately go anywhere. Instead, he was adrift in the vast nothingness of space. You see, in the modern age, we often forget that the ancient Israelites didn't have a scientific understanding of the universe. They didn't know that Earth was just a small planet orbiting around a relatively average star in an unimaginably vast galaxy. To them, the universe was flat, and the Earth was the center of it. Thus, when Lucifer fell from heaven, he didn't go up or down, he went sideways. He was ejected from the cosmos and hurtled through the infinite abyss. Some believe that he eventually found his way back to the void of space, choosing to live in the darkness rather than submitting to God. But others believe that he crashed into the young Earth. When he hit the planet, he burrowed deep into the crust, setting up shop in the center of the world. This idea goes back to the writings of St. Augustine, who believed that Lucifer fell into the depths of the earth, creating a pit of fire and brimstone. As such, hell wasn't a place he fell from, but rather a place he fell into. So which one of these ideas is correct? Unfortunately, no one knows for sure. While the concept of hell has changed throughout history, one thing remains constant: our fascination with it. We want to know what happens after we die, if there's a place of torment waiting for us, and if so, what does it look like? But regardless of what it looks like, we can all agree on one thing. The last place we want to visit is hell. After all, according to Christians, it's eternally freezing cold. Or at least that's what the weather is like when Lucifer isn't in charge. You see, if Lucifer is the king of hell, he might just be paying us a visit. So if you want to avoid getting burnt alive, here's what you should do. Stay inside, turn on all your lights, lock all your doors, and hide under your bed.